Hello everyone, good morning. Um, this is a recording of our American Literature session from September 10th at 8 a.m. If you attended live to our session and you're coming back to view this later or you missed part of the session, you will note that we had a lot of technical issues in this session, and my internet was a huge part of this issue, as well as I think some other people were having issues with their internet. And so the recording of this, the actual CC recording of this video did not seem to work for some reason or another, and it only recorded the first, I think, 2 seconds, and then nothing plays thereafter. So I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I kept getting kicked out of the session and having to come back in. So hopefully this will not be an issue going forward, but this is just a screencast-o-matic of that session. We're missing out on some of the conversation pieces and some of the reflections that people shared on the screen, but for those of you that are watching it later, you'll still have an opportunity to experience the lesson and be able to complete your exit ticket. And I will include a link to the exit ticket in the email that I'm sending out with this link, as well as a link in the under the announcements section of our class homepage, which is where you can find all of the recordings should you miss a session. So it's not ideal, but essentially I'm going to teach this session again right now in this video so you still have access. And we'll try to go through, and then my expectation is on screens where you need to be doing some thinking and some reflecting, that you will pause the video and do that thinking, do that reflecting, and then restart the video when you're ready to move forward. Okay, so I probably will not spend a lot of time on any particular screen, but then that is the expectation. Okay, so we started the session here with just some few reflections from the first few days of school. We'll move on from there. So we're looking at the essential question: what makes literature American literature? So we'll try to have some kind of overarching question within a given lesson that we're kind of trying to answer through our learning and through our content. So the next couple of days we're looking at, obviously, what is American literature. And then we'll look through the learning targets as well within each session. So today I'm asking you to be able to reflect on a passage and assess its effectiveness. So you're actually going to be grading somebody else's work as if you were the teacher, and that's your goal for the day. That you can create your own response to a discussion prompt that will be happening today and tomorrow. That you can discuss within a small group or a peer this discussion prompt. This is not something you'll be able to do in this recording. That's okay. And then as you post your discussion prompt, you can write with proper grammar and spelling. Okay, so often as we go through our sessions together, or we go through the course content, if you are new to MNVA, this might be new to you, but returning students, you're pretty well versed at this. But we will frequently have discussion prompts that are posted as part of a lesson, and they are graded. And that's what we're looking at today, is how to do that, how to post your discussion prompt response. What am I expecting from you? How are you going to be graded? What should they look like? Right? So that's the purpose of today's lesson. Your first one will actually be taking place tomorrow, and you're going to be discussing what is American literature. Okay. So as a class, we discussed, what makes a good discussion post. Some of the comments that came up in the session were, to be able to use proper grammar and spelling, to use full and complete sentences, to really thoroughly explain your thinking. These are a few of the points that were brought up by your peers during our session. And they're all valid points, and they're all things that you should be considering as you create your own post. Excuse me. So then we took a look at the rubric, and so for almost every single discussion prompt you will see this exact rubric. This is how you're going to be graded. They are out of 20 points for the most part. And I'm going to be looking for this content, right? So to be able to get all 4s, these are the expectations that I have for you. You're able to respond on time, so timeliness does matter, especially because part of your expectation is going to be to reflect on 2 other people's posts, to respond to them, so that it's truly a discussion, that there's a back and forth. But to be able to do that, to allow people to respond to you, you have to post yours on time. So that is something that is very important. And then the other expectation is that you're responding to 2 of your peers' posts, at least 2, within a 2-day time frame. You will lose points for not responding to 2 of your peers. It's an automatic 2-point deduction for not responding to 2 other people's posts, okay? I'm so sorry. Okay, and then the content and the quality. These are the really important factors here. You have high quality content that reflected good conceptual understanding and completion of the assigned coursework, okay? This means depth, it means complexity. So whatever that question is asking you that you're being asked to respond to, I want to see multiple sentences to show your thinking, that you're responding to all parts of the discussion prompt. Often you'll see like 3 or 4 questions. Don't just answer one of them. Make sure you're answering all 4 of them in paragraph format, okay? And of course, complete sentences, proper grammar, punctuation, all that good stuff, okay? And then quality, adding significantly to the discussion by suggesting other solutions, pointing out problems, or even respectfully disagreeing. Also substantiate any comments with reasoning or source citation. So this means you're citing your sources, including quotes from the text when necessary and appropriate. You can absolutely disagree with your peer if you're doing so respectfully, and you might ask questions of them to draw out further conversation or further discussions. I love when a reflection can include a question that will ask your peers to think. And I love when comments on other people's posts might ask a deep question, asking them to think. Those are great ways to earn some quality points on a discussion post, okay? Okay, so after investigating the rubric, what are 3 things you must do to earn a high score on your discussion responses? This is something that we talked about after students reflected on the rubric, but essentially I went through it with you of what these expectations are, so I feel like we're comfortable to move forward. So what I did for the rest of the activity here was to assess the examples, and we're going to do this actually quite a bit, especially when we get into literary analysis here in a couple of weeks. But I'm going to ask you to look at 2 actual posts posted by students. These were my 9th grade students, so keep that in mind, that the quality of your response will need to be higher. Of course, you know, the older you get, the more you're expected to do, right? So in this case, we worked with a partner to look over and reflect on these passages, and I asked students to assess these examples as if they were the teacher. What score would you give it out of 20 if you were the teacher, okay? And they talked about it a little bit together, and then we shared our thinking with the class, okay? So first and foremost, let's look at the discussion prompt of which you're going to give a grade to it, okay? This is not your discussion prompt. Actually, I think you'll see something similar to this in a few weeks when we get into short stories, but this is what they were asked to write about, the students, your students. So you have read stories in books, you've encountered stories in many other media, in television shows, movies, comics, and stories that people tell in conversation. You've probably been more interested in some of those stories than others. Think about the way you react when you read or view or hear the beginning of a story. Something gets you interested or not interested. Then something has to keep you interested. Even if the subject matter is something that greatly appeals to you, a story may only grab you if it's compellingly written or told. So the question then that they're being asked to really respond to is recall specific stories that you have liked. Remember their plots, their conflicts, characters, settings, and themes. Think about the writer's use of language. Which stories are good ones, in your opinion? Which elements are strongest in those stories, and what is memorable about the elements of the story? So reflecting on the idea that I really want you to be answering all of the questions given to you in a paragraph format. You're going to look next at 2 different posts, and I want you to grade them accordingly. Neither of these scores deserve a perfect 20. And I'm hoping that you can see why that is the case. So, and this is actually part of your exit ticket, that you're reflecting on the scores you give each of these passages, okay? So these are the 2 responses. You can ignore this top part with the partner 1 and 2 names, but I do want you to spend time, so pause the video here, read through each of these passages, and consider what score you would give if you were the teacher, okay? And so what you can do is you can, scroll back in the video to see the rubric again, This was easier if you were in the session because you could toggle back and forth, of course, but if you would like to go back and take a look at that rubric again, you're welcome to do so by just rewinding the video a bit. But pause here, take a look at these, read these, and be prepared to justify why you gave each a score, because that is actually your exit ticket. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so hopefully you just had a chance to pause the video, and hopefully now you're coming back and you're prepared to close out the lesson with us. Super awkward like moment for me as a teacher, because it was 10 seconds of my time where I'm just, sitting here. Hopefully you didn't follow with that 10 seconds with me and you did pause the video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the end of the lesson and go to the reflection piece, and then you will be at a point where you can complete the exit ticket, and that will fulfill your attendance requirements for our session today on September 10th. So basically, as a class right here, we took a minute to reflect out together. We had a lot of technical difficulties in class, especially at this point. And so I think everybody was in that boat where we didn't have a chance to fully reflect on this, but this is what you're going to essentially be doing as your exit ticket. So as a class, we talked about some of these things, but as a student who's watching this playback later, that's going to be your job to do, and to do so within your exit ticket. So at this point, that is the close of the lesson. So if you've had a chance to think about those two different prompts and the reflection you have for each, you can actually go and click on the link to the exit ticket at this point, and you will be able to fill that in, give it your best thoughts, your best effort, come back to this video if you need, and then once you submit that exit ticket, you are good for attendance as far as the CC is concerned. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for those of you that emailed me that there was an issue. I really appreciate that, and hopefully this takes care of that requirement for all of us. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Thanks. Bye.